about our heroine, Kjersti Skomsvold's first book, The Faster I Walk, the Smaller I Am. We're going to talk about the Nansen Academy and about her continued struggles with chronic fatigue syndrome and how she's hitting bottom over and over again and how she tries to recover. And we're also going to talk about the reasons why certain people leave their spouses. That and more on today's 2-month review. Enter music!
Boom!
I'm a bit confused and you're a bit of a mess. It's something that they wanna test. You won't see it through, you won't see it through. I know it's something you can't do, but I see it through, I see it through. I've always pulled away for two. I can make you feel it.
Did it! That was for you!
Drop the mic and play some music. Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, so you know that the 2-month review is a weekly podcast brought to you by 3% and Open Letter, in which we take one giant book, break down bit by bit, talk about it, analyze it, make jokes. This season, season 9 is Monsterhuman by Kjersti Skomsvold, translated by Becky Crook, published by Delkey Archive, and I am Chad Post from Open Letter, joined as always by Brian Wood, the author of Joytime Killbox.
Hi, Chad. Great intro, man. You're getting more professional. We're gonna have microphones pretty soon.
I do. Mine's right up there, but if I use it in front of me, I will sound so much louder than you, and I don't know how to. I don't want to have to fuck with adjusting things.
Okay, I'm gonna get a microphone.
You get a microphone, and then we'll do it. I do it with Tom sometimes, and you can hear on the podcast that like I'm super crisp and he's like fuzzy.
Yeah.
So it feels wrong. It feels mean. So how are you doing today?
Doing very well, thank you.
Diving into Joe Rogan conspiracies and having a time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a good week for it. So I went and got. We'll talk about the book in a minute. Today we're going to be doing the first section is the zone, starting on page 144, and we're going up to page 180, which is part of the way through the Human Academy. And I have something about that our Human School to talk about. But first, I went to the library and got her first book, since we've been talking about her writing it throughout this whole process. And
Is that the heart book that she mentioned, or is that a separate one?
That's this. Because I just looked up her bio to make sure of this. And so her first book was she was this. She was editor. It says editor of a book called Quiet Wind Group. I don't know what that means. But then the first book is The Faster I Walk, the Smaller I Am. Then Monsterhuman came out in 2012. This came out in 2009 in Norway. 2012 for Monsterhuman. Then there's a book of poetry that came out in 2013 called A Little Sad Mathematics, which I'm very intrigued by. She wrote a drama of this, a dramatic play version of The Faster I Walk, the Smaller I Am. And then in 2014 wrote a novel called 33. And then a children's book called Me, Me, Me. And then a new novel that came out last year that I believe Granta is publishing it in the UK or Portobello. We're trying to find out about the US rights, but the new novel is called The Child. And it's about, if I remember right, it's like a novel written for her unborn child about becoming a mother.
Oh, cool.
So that's all news. But so the first line of this that we had from before, when she's writing this book, the Heart book, The Faster I Walk, the Smaller I Am, about...
Was it I'm 90 and afraid to die, or...
Yeah.
Right.
So it's about, let me read you the description first,
Yeah.
So we know. Mathea Martinson has never been good at dealing with other people. After a lifetime, her only real accomplishment is her longevity. Everyone she reads about in the obituaries has died younger than she is now. Afraid that her life will be over before anyone knows that she lived, Mathea digs out her old wedding dress, bakes some sweet cakes, and heads out into the world to make her mark. She buries a time capsule out in the yard. It gets dug up to make room for a flagpole. She wears her late husband's watch and hopes people will ask her for the time. They never do. Is it really possible for a woman to disappear so completely that the world won't notice her passing? The Faster I Walk, the Smaller I Am is an ironic twist on the notion that life, quote, must be lived to the fullest. And it was shortlisted for the Impact Dublin Literary Award. It's changed its name recently. But anyways, the first line is not that. The first line is, I like it when I can be done with something. Like a knitted earwarmer, like winter, spring, summer, fall, even like Epsilon's career. I like to get things over with, but impatience has consequences. That time when Epsilon gave me an orchid for my birthday. I didn't really want an orchid. I never got the point of flowers. They're just going to wither and die. What I actually wanted is for Epsilon to retire. So yeah, so that I don't even see that line in here and flipping through. Although it felt familiar when I read it in there, because I read this book when it came out, which was more years ago than I want to admit, 2011. It was translated by Carrie Pierce, who lives here in Rochester and is a friend of the press and a friend of ours. So yeah, I remember reading it, but that line sounded familiar, but I don't remember too much about it. But yeah, so it's so it's changed, which I find really interesting, because then it shows that Monsterhuman really is her working through this process and meeting with people and talking and revising and changing and altering her book and really working on it for seemingly years.
Yeah, because I mean, she talks about it. What was the first, on the computer page length that she did? It was like
38
pages. And so she ups the spacing, and then when they have it, it's like 100 pages, I think.
When she's at the school.
Or 80. It's like 80 or something. But it never gets bigger than 100, no matter what changes they tell her to do, right?
So this book is small size. So like, to put this in context for anyone who's watching the YouTube video, it is much smaller than Monsterhuman by trim size. I hesitate to guess.
8x5?
I want to say it's 8x5, although I can verify that it's 7, because this is 8.5, so it's probably 7.5 by 5. So it's very small, and it is 147 pages.
And what is the? Can you hold up to the camera to maybe see the?
It's like normal.
I'm curious, like how the gutters and
it's not overdone.
Sometimes they push, because like
Hello,
there's always
Fever Dream.
Freaking Fever Dream, where like, it reads so fast. It's like, yeah, because it's like 20,000 words.
Yeah,
of course it reads fast. What do you mean?
It's like that book is the length of one of my really extensive blog posts.
Yeah, it's like an old Bill Simmons, the sports guy article.
That's true.
Yeah, there's little tricks they do, or there's another one. What was it? When Torres's book "We the Animals" came out, it was very, very, very short.
Yeah.
And like it's weird. Like I know, like especially when you look at, I guess style guide's not the right word, but when you do like those big tomes of like get published that come out each year, the literary guide to literary agents, or they give you like the word count in the glossary, and like everything is like should be around 90,000 words to 100,000 words.
Yeah.
Right. That's a book, like, and a novella is about, something less than that, or like whatever. But like Old Man in the Sea is like 35,000 words or something like that, or Fever Dream's super short, or that's super short. So like does it even matter as long as the publisher likes it?
No, yeah, exception to the rule too.
Yeah, because obviously like you guys are gonna market it any way you want anyways, so like it doesn't length doesn't matter.
Length doesn't matter. This is
finally
that could foreshadow one of our later conversations in this podcast, but it's not going.
It's thin. It's just thin. That's what she says, right? It's my thin book.
It's off the rails already. We are 5 minutes in, and this is good.
Yeah, because that's one of the hard things that I try to impart with like when I do creative writing workshops and stuff, is try to get people to start thinking about word count rather than like, don't worry about pages. Pages doesn't matter. Just think about word count, because a page it's not the same depending on what a publisher wants to do with it. Like there's no standard page, because nonfiction is the page length's going to be different versus the way they publish the books. And so I always tell them, like, just think about word count and how many words are you writing, and
shouldn't you think about how many words your book needs? Like not so much like getting to a word count, but like what is your book worthy of? Like this book might work best at this size. Like more would make it less impactful or less like whatever. Just like you'd be like, oh, that's fluff. Like I don't know, every single Netflix Marvel TV series in which there's like 3 extra episodes that don't need to be there, or like
just like, oh good God,
I don't know,
dread watching this. Like I like if I like the first 2 episodes, oh no, there's going to be 20 more episodes. This is not good. This is like an 8-episode kind of a story.
Yep. But it will be 14 episodes because that'll make more money.
Mhm.
I had a dream last night that I was at a conference meeting at 9 a.m. and doing shots of whiskey. So I wore my Jessica Jones t-shirt today to work to represent.
Are you sure that's a dream? Are you sure that was a dream? That probably actually happened.
I actually looked this morning. I was like, oh, I glanced around. I was like, where's my shot glass? It's all good. Like the last one, I was like, I'm gonna hide it because I think it's too early to be doing shots of whiskey. Anyways,
like I don't have the word count memorized of what my book actually ended up being, but it was initially like if you just say like a page is 12-point font,
250,
double space, like right about
225 to 250, yeah.
The first manuscript I sent in was like 260-ish pages, maybe 250-ish. And it's a short story collection, right? And so I ended up just taking a bunch of the stories out and trying to compile them so it makes, there's more of a tie through, like they're linked a little bit better because that's the hot thing right now. And I think published, it's going to be like 138. So like, I carved out a ton of stuff.
Wow.
So, I mean, it can be really short.
Yeah.
And it seems like with hers, they're trying to make it longer. And it's like, I don't know if I want it to be any long. Like,
I don't, yeah.
The book is the book, And I really love that struggle she's having of like, yeah, they get it and they're probably right, but I'm not there yet. So like, and maybe I'll get there eventually, but right now you guys all suck.
This also, I should say that this book is 47 pages, but it starts on page 9. So so it's like one of those 138 probably. But this seems probably right length for this book. If I remember right, it didn't seem like it dragged ever. It didn't seem like you were losing things. It was what it's supposed to be. It's the character study, whatever. Whereas this, I think shortening this would be a mistake.
Yeah, this is supposed to stretch.
This is supposed to be wild. So. Although there's a bit that I want to get to, like let's get into it because there's a bit that I want to get to about the difference in a book from a writer perspective of a plot point versus an event.
Okay, well, before you do that, I want to ask you one thing though. I haven't got my copy yet, but you guys, is it out yet? Translator's Bride?
It comes out on August,
it's coming up, right? Or is it already out?
Yeah, no, I think the official pub date is the 20th, is next Tuesday.
Because that's a lean novel as well,
right? Oh shit, yeah, it is. It's perfect. It's somewhere on my desk here. But I don't see it now. But yeah, it's it might only be like 120 pages.
Somewhere Anthony and Kai are screaming, "You motherfucker! It's this amount page. How do you not know this?"
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think it's about 120. It's very slim.
Okay. Did you have a reaction when you received the? Did you have a reaction when you received the manuscript?
Thank God because we just finished.
Right length.
Thank God because we just finished working on the dream part and the invented part, and like we did something that's not 7,000 pages long.
Yeah.
Which I did finish. I'll answer your question in a second because there's two important things about that. But one is I finished proofing the dream part, which will be a forthcoming season, the 2-month review. And holy shit, that book is so great. The second time through, it's going to be even better the third time through. I tried to write about it on my weekly post about the proofing process into Bokov, who's all over it, which is fun. But with the Translator's Bride, he ended up having the author João Reis had to translate it himself. And it is short, and that's part of the reason that he was able to do that, I think, is that it's a condensed voice. It's taking place at a specific number of days, a very, very short period of time into this person's world. To make that too long would be, especially because there's this this tension between the internal voice in which it's like this ranting, like this city is gross, everything sucks, my life is terrible, I'm always getting screwed over, blah, 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 blah. And then his personal or his public voice where like he talks to his landlord and he's like, "You're the most wonderful woman in the world. Thank you so much for taking care of me and for cooking such great stuff." And like that sort of tension, I think, played out over more than like 150 pages might start to get a little tedious or like repetitive. And I think it has the right amount of like plot points or events and that lead to where it needs to be. So I think it works. I think isn't it like a short book summer? Isn't that what they named this summer, short book summer or something like that? Isn't that cool? Just kidding. It's all.
I don't know. I I've got a small one I'm going to put out in the world.
Yeah, more small book summer.
Yay!
Instead of hot girl summer, it's short book summer.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense as well with something that's comedic. You know, the timing. Sometimes you want it to be a little bit clipped or shorter to let it resonate better. So
unless it's like Faison's book, which is super funny, but
yeah, he's very funny as well.
He piles, and those jokes become more and more fun as they go along. So let's do this.
Did you notice a different voice with Monsterhuman versus Smaller I Get?
Faster I walk, smaller I am. Yeah, this is very clearly like, I don't know, there's a little bit of even in that section I read, there's a little bit of the tick that she has of like how she describes things or like the rhythms that she uses. There was a little bit of that in here, I think, but there is a difference because it's very, the problem I read this book when I read it when it came out, I was like, I don't know that I really like it because it felt a little bit too much like someone hip trying to like imitate what it would be like to be dying. And it felt a little bit like Muzak to me. And I wasn't sure if it was the translation or the fact that it's her first book, but it was like that Muzak where you recognize the song, but something's wrong with it. And it feels a little bit too like that's Love in an Elevator, but like not really. Why did I
but bubblegum jazz?
Yeah. Like it's just tweaked off. Like there's something missing that gives the resonances aren't there because it felt a little bit like, oh, this person's like 22 trying to write about a 90-year-old. And like the concerns that they have feel like a 22-year-old thinking they're 90. That's my vague memory. I wrote a review on Goodreads that was not nice. That I'm gonna have to go delete now.
How dare you?
And don't go look that up. There's no such thing as the Wayback Machine. I'm gonna go delete everything I've ever written forever. But it was good. I remember thinking it's really good. It just wasn't. Something about it didn't resonate right for me.
I thought it was good, but all of my actions just shit on it. But I thought it was good. So.
You know. I mean,
it's the political season. You gotta. What I actually did doesn't matter. It's what's in my heart now that matters. So.
I feel for that book.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of sympathy for that book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see what I actually wrote. So, Faster I Walk. So let's get into this. Let's get into the zone. Zone is interesting because this is one of the first times where she just backslides. And it also comes, I wish we had read this last week because when I was talking about the last section, I was like, it's weird that she put this piece here that goes back in time and is a flashback, but it's showing kind of like the circular nature of her disease. And then in the zone, it explains that like 100% directly. Where she says, like on page 152, it's much worse hitting rock bottom the second time. And in order to believe that I will be able to climb out of this pit once more and up out of the cellar, I tried for half an hour at a time, for 10 minutes, for 5 minutes, to ignore this sick body of mine. But once again, I hurled bottles of water at the wall in confounded desperation. And I think there's no way I'll be able to do this one more time. But I don't have any choice. One doesn't have any choice after all. And then later, a few lines later, if I let the story be a circle, after all, girls are are so good at drawing circles. But she does refer to it being circular. And this is something like I have never lived with or known someone with like a chronic disease. Well, I guess I have. My mother-in-law has Crohn's disease, so I suppose that qualifies. But like someone with something like chronic fatigue syndrome or cystic fibrosis or any of the things that are mentioned in here. But that feels like a very true point of like, she kept thinking that she was better and then to like have like a big relapse and how do you keep going? Can you do this again? And then knowing that there's going to be another relapse and keep going. Like that's a real part of this. And that cyclical nature, I think is why this book must be this long too, because you can't, like I could see another book, a lesser book being like, oh, I got bad. I was at school. I got sick. I went to the old folks home. I got better. I became a writer. The end. I conquered. And like, this book is not going to let that happen. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. And she mentions too, like about time and not being constricted by time with this, like wanting to be free of it. But I'm curious about when she talks about drawing circles, because later when we get to the mom part, mom draws circles.
I'm so excited for the mom part.
But it's interesting too, because she says girls can't draw bicycles in maybe the previous section.
Yeah, I kind of remember that too.
something about girls aren't good at drawing bicycles. And when I was thinking about that, I'm like, well, isn't like 90% of drawing a bicycle like two
Dude,
big circles?
Okay, so no, it's not. Okay, why don't you right now draw me a bicycle? Like, where are all the lines that go from like to the gears and to the like? And when you think about the shape of a bicycle, it's super fucked up. I've seen like professional artists draw bicycles, and you look at it and you're like, what is that? That's not, that's not how that works. I think bicycles are really hard to draw.
I don't know how well that has to be rendered, but I'm just thinking about like you draw the frame, you draw the handlebars.
I don't think drawing the frame is. I think drawing the frame is very hard.
Yeah.
So
it's on the beginning of the loft, page 131. Girls can't draw bicycles. is how that begins.
How funny.
So I what a weird, curious. I don't think anybody can draw bicycles. I guess. But,
no, I don't think. I think.
But then in that one, she talks about girls are great at drawing, and then she says girls are great at drawing circles.
Mm-hmm. Bicycles.
And then later there's circles. So I just thought it was interesting. There's like something echoed there with the drawing of shapes and things, but I have no idea how it plays out necessarily.
Yeah, neither. That's this is the other part that I was thinking of with that cyclical bit is on 151. I can't handle this time, this infinite stretch of time. Why must I meet rock bottom again? How many times do I have to meet rock bottom? How many times does one have to pull themselves out before throwing in the towel? Which is
I think the answer is like 3.5. I forget.
And then you're good.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's been a study as to like what level of frustration do you reach before you just give up and that most people have to.
Yeah, don't know about that. I'm curious. Yeah, there's definitely this kind of like before we were trying to figure out like. I don't know, it's like she's trying to figure out her humanity, how to be human again, and she kind of discovers that. Mm-hmm. And I guess, would this be losing it again?
I don't know. It's kind of, well, I mean, is it as simple as losing, or is it more evolving? Because she has the physical pain is back. And so she's like struggling with that again. However, in the same section is where she gets a letter from Carrie Joint at October, who is a real publisher. Oh, shit. Nope, that's in the next section. Wait, no, that is in this one. Yeah. No, she gets a letter from Carrie Joint October, which is a real Norwegian publisher, saying that they really want to look at her book, and like she's excited about wanting to publish the book or be interested in the book or help her with the book. So like she has a positive thing going on too. So like even if she, and that's helping her retain some humans. So I don't know if it's like at the beginning maybe it is a plus and minus, and now it's becoming a little bit more varied.
And she's also got to the point too where they want edits. They want things to be changed, and it's like I can't work on it anymore. There's like this feeling of like I can't do this anymore, and you're seeing it mirrored with her own life, with her own body. Like I can't keep pushing. I can't keep trying. And that's one of the things I find so encouraging with this book is just like the way that she's always willing to put herself out there and to try and to. It'll probably amount to nothing, and I'll give it a shot. Like she writes lists, like I'll read books, walk a little bit further, write a little bit more, try again. Like, I don't know.
It is encouraging.
It's so easy to sit and feel sorry for yourself, and you see this character within Monsterhuman that is going against longer, harder odds, and still willing to push and try, and getting to see the struggle. I find just super encouraging for me and my own goals and endeavors that I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I also like that it does point to that struggle and the relationship between wanting to be a writer and the physical nature of her struggle. Because it's one thing like you can imagine like take like a Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, the James Joyce book about like becoming a writer or becoming an artist. Like there's very little physicality in that of like that the physical is restraining him. It's all about his mental abilities and how he can become this great thinker and smarter than his father and bigger than like the church and overcome all these things, but they're all mental obstacles. And the only physicality is like fucking, because that's like a very Joycean thing, pissing and fucking. But like in here, it's clear that like you can have all the intellect you want, but if your body is rejecting life in some sense or like fucking you up like that, it doesn't matter. Like she's struggling physically to be able to mentally write this book, which I think is interesting. And it doesn't dwell on it in like like you owe me sympathy or the world has wronged me or whatever way. It's just like a fact of like the situation. There's one other part of this I want to mention was the very, very ending on 153, where it seems to be where I think you mentioned this, talking about time. And this seems to be like a reflection, a very, very, like, is it a synecdoche of like this book? I don't even know if I'm using that term right, but where it's like this little example stands for this whole book. Maybe it's appropriate to compress the time, I think. Let it pass twice as quickly, so I can simply sandwich the second year spent in the cellar on top of the first. What a splendid idea. Extract all that's nice and important and difficult from the second year and put it like a lid on top, or like a shadow beneath the first year. I write it chronologically, but in a chronology that I've come up with myself, because I don't want time to have any say over me. That won't work, you might say. But on the other hand, kiddo, these are the rules. No, I didn't say that it would be fair. No, I didn't say anything about it being reasonable. That's just the way that it is. This is like where she's writing again about her illness, but like combining it with the other thing. And so there's a sense of like this revision that's going on, and like the way that she's acknowledging the writerly tricks of like compressing things and skipping time and using two different events into one, and that this book is more crafted than simply a journal.
Yeah.
And I think that's
life with the boring parts taken out.
And that comes up in this next section, the human school, where things just start jumping. And this is the first time where I feel like all of a sudden, like shit just like moves in a different order and a different like speed. And
I could read the book pretty fast until I got to like these parts, and then I had to start slowing down. Like, wait, what? You move two lines, and you're like, where am I and what happened? Holy crap! Like,
yeah, like all of a sudden it's different. There's like a shift.
Yeah, she must have been watching Quantum Leap when she
premiere program.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I didn't realize Melancholia was a French film. I only saw
it's
Von Troyer, or who's the one?
Yeah, it's Danish.
Oh, okay. What was the one that had Kirsten Dunst?
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, that's the one I saw.
What do you think? Wait, what do you think is another one?
It was a French. Oh, sorry, a tiny French cinema. Okay.
Yeah.
I read it wrong.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the same Melancholia because it's filmed that way, and it is like the end of the world, and like that movie's great. Okay. I'm super psyched for Kirsten Dunst's new TV series too. As a side note, on Showtime, it looks amazing.
What is it? I don't even know what it is.
Oh,
well, one, I don't have Showtime. So.
I'm subscribing just to watch this. It's called "I'm Becoming a God in Central Florida," and it's about a cult. It's about
Florida
a cult
stuff.
A cult.
Well, of
multimedia marketing.
Of course, you're in it then.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm super, like I said, it's Kirsten Dunst. It's got good visuals. It's got a cult-like thing. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to subscribe just for that.
She mentioned black holes in this one.
Yeah.
And she also mentioned sitting with a physicist poet person or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading a book. I don't know. This is probably like 5-6 years ago. Neil deGrasse Tyson wrote a book called Death by Black Hole.
Oh, wow.
Where she imagines dying in a black hole in this, which I thought was funny. But Neil deGrasse Tyson said you have to make up new words for dying in a black hole. Like with the advent of electricity, there became the word electrocuted, right? Like that was never in the English language before. And he said if you die by a black hole, you are spaghettified, would be the way you die, in which you become stretched faster at your feet than at your head because of the power of a black hole.
Yeah.
And the way that time is messed up, and it starts stringing you along until you're basically stretched out to so the top half of you was totally fine, and like the bottom half of you was spread out into infinity and just turned into spaghetti. And it's like this marvelously horrific way of dying where it takes forever because of the way time works and how slow it becomes.
Yep. I remember reading about that. I was fascinated by physics stuff.
It would be like hell. It'd be like hell. It'd be an eternity of just pain and suffering.
Yeah. It's not good.
So, yay!
Although, did you ever see the movie The Black Hole? It was like an 80s Disney movie. I think. Oh. And I fucking loved that movie as a kid. And the other day I looked at, a few weeks ago maybe, I looked up the trailer for it because it just came to my mind. I was like, what was this movie all about? Like there's a Maximilian's one of the characters. I couldn't quite remember. I watched the trailer for that. I was like, that looks like the darkest movie ever produced for children. And I read some reviews and they're like, this is not appropriate. This is really like over the top. So I feel like that was the fundamental movie of my youth. Like when I was like 10 years old, that was like my Citizen Kane, was The Black Hole of Maximilian. And like, it explains too much. Like if I go back and watch
Don't let
that, I'm gonna be like, oh no.
Don't let your kids watch Dark Crystal. It's a lot different than you think of today's kids movies.
Yes. Very.
Do it as an adult with some drugs in your body. Woohoo!
Yeah. Like that new series they have. So let's
Those
get into
puppets are talking.
The one thing that's interesting that I just finished proofing things in such an intense way that I feel okay saying this. So she enrolls in the Nansen school writing program, right? So she gets picked up to be able to go into that, and that's what this whole the human school is about. Okay, so this is a real place. It is actually not called that though. It is the Nansen Academy, not school. I don't know if it says academy somewhere in here, but the first time it references it is as school. So the Nansen Academy was founded as a humanist and anti-totalitarian institution. It's a one-year study program that's founded on folk high school traditions common to Scandinavian nations. The interdisciplinary program is mainly based on social and humanistic sciences. Historical, holistic, and ethical perspectives are encouraged. The main aim is to inspire independent thinking and reflection, as well as creativity, as a basis for active participation in society. All students attend classes in philosophy, international security, politics, and cultural history, art, literature, and music, as well as their chosen program. So that all tracks with what's in this book, and it's sort of the vision I had of this place. But it's interesting to know that it's real and what it really is. And she did really attend it. The other thing that's most fascinating, though, is that the Nansen Academy was the one that initiated the Norwegian Festival of Literature that takes place in Lillehammer, and that I was just at in May. So they're the ones that are responsible for that coming into existence. And even further to that point, in this section, Stig Sederbakken shows up, which they're going to talk more about in a minute. And he was the former director of the Lillehammer, the festival, the literature festival. And he lost his post because he wanted someone who was a controversial right-wing speaker to participate, and there was protests about it, and so he resigned and left the festival, like I want to say in like 2010 or something like that, and then he killed himself. That's another bad part of this, but he's an author I think you'd like, because he's very dark and very funny, and his books are pretty wild. But he shows up in here too as one of her teachers. And not only does he show up as one of her teachers in here, but he blurbed The Faster I Walk, the Smaller I Am, saying, a gloomy feel-good novel about the irreparable loneliness of being human, a tragic comedy of rare quality. So
gloomy feel-good. That's right.
Gloomy feel-good. See, that's like that's essentially a Stig Sederbakken book too. Anyways, okay. So in this section, the human school, she's at school. She meets with other people who are also struggling with various illnesses, including Ellisiv? I don't know how to say that. Do you have any guesses? Ellisiv?
No, I just move on.
Yeah. Okay. So I believe that she's suffering from cystic fibrosis. And that's why she references that her disease is much worse than her chronic fatigue syndrome. But yet this woman's more active and is there. But she does sort of like compare or contrast herself against Ellisiv every so often, of like what she's capable of doing, what Kjersti's not capable of doing, what they each do back and forth. And I found that kind of interesting. And I think that that's a really good, I don't know. It's like, I think it's interesting to use a character like this as like a balance or as a foil, but also to illustrate that sort of cyclical bit again of like getting through the day, getting worse, making it, getting through the day, getting worse.
If you really sit right next to Ellisiv, you can hear fizzing sounds like Coca-Cola in a clean glass, all because of salt. Like I don't know what's going on with her, but
cystic fibrosis has a salt thing. That's what tipped me off. That's why I double checked, because I thought I had heard that before, and that's why there's something. I forget what it is now, but there's something with like the loss of salt that happens, and when you have cystic fibrosis, that causes all these other problems to take place.
She doesn't have enough air in her lungs. Air is essential for carrying sounds in this world. And at this point, I still haven't heard the fizzy Coca-Cola sounds inside her. I've only heard her coughing. Yeah, and then she has a line of 160. She's the one who goes to everything, and I'm the one who has to be picked up by Dad because I'm too sick. So like it's interesting. And this is where like the Humanistic Academy. It could have just been the Nansen Academy. I don't understand the choice there, but whatever. It's not really important. It's just one of those weird things. I had a question for you. So is this supposed to be a pun on 157?
at the end of the first full paragraph, she was talking about various things. And she says, I hope that she won't mention ME. It's hard to pretend that ME doesn't exist when it's the first thing I say good morning to each day. And I was wondering if that's supposed to be a pun on or a play on words of like me. ME is me. So like me is the thing I say good morning to each day. Or if it's like, or her and her disease. I was like, I wonder if that's supposed to be a joke.
Maybe. I don't know.
Not as good as the joke where the principal has come up with 5 types of love, 1 for each finger. The one in the middle stands for sex. Yeah. Fuck you, he says, and shows us the finger. Yeah. That's not bad. I like that.
Well, there's several ones in here. Most of them have to do with mishearing things.
This is where things started to go awry.
Jokes, right?
Yeah. And I remember that's what he said happened.
I didn't write down the specific examples, but there's several where like there's like you hear something and you like hear it wrong.
Yep.
And if I was a good boy, I would have written them down. But again, since I'm using a library book, I don't want to underline the library. I don't want to be that
checked
person.
Out. So
yeah. Like I just got this one. I got this one book called. It's one of these terrible books on like style and write tight, how to keep your prose sharp, focused, and concise. Right? It's one of those
dirty.
Whatever. It's just basically like how to trim the fat out of your writing. But there's this the last person that got this book, and they probably checked it out in like 1994. Writes all over it in the margins, and sometimes upside down, which is really funny. Hold on. Oh wow, I got some Cheerios. Thank you, Isaac. It's nice of you. Okay, quiet, hon. We're recording. You can keep going, and I'll find the things that were written.
I found one of those things where she makes a mistake. So on 176.
Okay.
Then I talk about mom who pushed me to go ice skating. She is part of a ski club.
Yeah.
That doesn't worry about whether the ice is too thin. The newspaper says the ice isn't safe. I told her. That's a lie, said mom. Just watch out for moles. It didn't seem like they understood what I meant about the moles. I later told Dad on the phone. Moles, said Dad. Did you say watch out for moles? But what did I mean by that? I say. I don't know, says Dad. I meant holes. So this like word slippage is happening there. There's I predict
it definitely doesn't land well when you read it in a dad joke voice.
You're welcome. Well, so how was
moles? I said holes, not moles.
That
turned it into a popsicle stick joke.
Another foreshadowing. Oh my god. This might be one of my favorite lines because I feel her. 177. Even though I'm skiing, I gain a few pounds. My pants get tighter, but I still think that I look just as good. That's what I tell myself every morning. I'm like, no, it's fine. Fine.
All right, just a quick segue for this book. So here's what's written in the margin of it. This section says this is like tests on how to test your what is this section called? It's this is from the Write Tight book. Pre-writing tight. Whatever that means. But apply the quote so what test. At my publishing company, we generate trip reports that describe our business travel and its results. Like whatever. So what you want to do is have ask so what or who cares to your text to see if it's good or not, right? So the essentials are so what or who cares. And so in the in the margin it says, handwritten, Joyce's Ulysses. So what? Who cares? I'll try to see.
Holy shit.
So if we apply, I'm just like, oh my God, this is so for chat. So what? Who cares? We can apply that to every single thing in Ulysses.
Oh my God.
These books are very dangerous and fun in some ways. But,
yeah.
So,
I don't know what else to put in here. There's some good funny parts in here. Bits about I don't know. Like there's parts like where she talks about going out with Stig Saderbakken, which I think is really cool. It's cool to see both Stig Saderbakken in here and Jan Sjarstad, who's the author we published, was in the previous chapter. I forgot to mention that she sees him at the movie when she goes to see Melancholia, isn't it? Oh no, where is he? Yeah, he's at the cinema. But it's not that movie. He chose Raise the Red Lantern. It says Jan Scherstad got to choose the film. It's the first time I go by myself to the movies. And then she says he must be the most pleasant man in Norway, towards strangers anyway. So like our author was is considered the most pleasant man in Norway, according to Kjersti Skomsvold, which is very nice. Very lovely man.
Is the Hildy W a real? I assume it's got to be a real author. That she's. It's almost like Stieg wants Hildy to mentor her in a way, or like here, talk to Hildy. She's written a bunch, and she'll. And I like that she was like this polar opposite of her, where she's kind of more right wing, and Kjersti's more social. Like, there's that whole thing about like hell is a woman that would vote for socialist. She's like reaches out her hand and she takes it. She goes, "Welcome to hell." Like, I love that.
Yeah,
that part of the book. But it's almost like they're not a good fit with each other, and it's like they're trying to like play matchmaker with the like. Here, you want a mentor? Here's a mentor for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out if that is a person. I'm not entirely sure, but there is a Hildy Hagerup that's not a W, who is a Norwegian novelist and author of children's literature. She won the Norwegian Critics' Prize for Best Children's Book in 2002. She would be slightly older than Kjersti, but only slightly. So I'm not sure if that's possible. I can't find a Hildy W.
Maybe it's a conglomerate, but I mean, it just seemed curious to have a name like. Why she would just call it Hildy W and not versus just Hildy or something.
Because everyone else's real name is used. Anthony and the Johnsons is used. Everyone, like, everything that's referenced in here is generally real. So that is interesting. I don't know. But this is
there's that really bizarre line in here too, where I forget who says it, but it was mentioned that Hildy couldn't become a real novelist until she was postmenopausal.
Yeah, so that wouldn't make sense.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
She's older, and like, to be saying something like that to a young author like the character Kjersti in this is just such a like. Why would you say that to somebody? Like,
yeah,
you got a long way so you can be a real novelist, but it's cute that you're trying. Or you're like, what the hell?
Yep.
Yeah,
there is one other misheard part is when Super Mario says, "Our semester project," says Super Mario. Yes, I say. "Are you done?" He asks. "What do you mean by dumb?" I say. So this is starting to happen more frequently. I also love that in 177. This is where I want to ask you this question. So 177 has the end of the paragraph about my toe sister, which is because she has webbed toes, and one of her friends does as well. She ends that paragraph by being like, "Such as life," but then my brother stopped his military service and became an environmental activist and said, "Such as life." But one of the greatest quotes ever, baseball quotes ever, is "Such as baseball, such as life." So I wish that would have been right there. Perfect opportunity. But this is where, at the end of this page, shit starts getting weird in terms of the plotting of this. Like, we've been just sort of, the plot of it is her mind and her going along. But this is where all of a sudden these events start happening and start popping in. So, like, there she is. Mom takes the train from Oslo, sends me neurotic text messages. She lists them. There she is, standing small and meek in front of me, but I'm the one who cries. "We're not a family anymore," I say, not caring that the other guests at the pizzeria can hear me. "We'll always be a family," says Mom. "No," I say, "we're not a family anymore. When are you moving out?" I'm like, what the fuck? Like, where did this come from? Like, this knowledge wasn't there prior to that. And then when you go on to the next page, then it goes back and explains that Mom and Dad, after she left, she was the last child to leave their house, tried to like do things together and ended up deciding that they just don't want to be together anymore.
Because just look at the transition between 77 to 178, right? "No," I say, "we're not a family anymore. When are you moving out?" She doesn't have a chance. She doesn't have a chance, and she acts very odd as she gets back on the train. So I give her a hug, but she seems not to want a hug. And I can understand that after everything I've said to her. What if I'm right? What if we're not a family anymore? But Kjersti, Dad says into the telephone later. Like, it's just this weird, immediate. Like, I mean, it works because it's the dialogue tag, says into the telephone later. But it's just this weird because like you're in scene with her and Mom, and it immediately switched to Dad saying something. Like, it's like, wait, is Dad there? Wait, no, Dad's not there. Like, it's a very interesting, like peculiar in a good way of going through the events, because time does not matter here at all. It's just all over the place.
It's all over, and that's back to that like time thing from before of like condensing things and I feel like it's weird because like most things are set to be like you in those books that you're reading, like you move from point A to point B to point C, like you hit your markers, you hit your plot points, and this is a major plot point, but it's not really a plot point. Like it's an event that happens that structures her consciousness, but that's different. So it's like it's interesting that the pacing can be so abnormal, because the pacing isn't it wouldn't work this way. You would never do this in a traditional book, but it works really well here because the pacing doesn't matter in that sense. Like it's an event.
Yeah, I'm sure William Broha of Right Tight would not like that.
Yeah, that guy is my nightmare. But this is great. So this is the part that I wanted us to talk about and have some fun with. Since we are both married, and we have wives, and she talks about why her mom.
I just have one.
I had two. I've had two.
One.
I've got
no at one time. I only have one.
Officially,
we have wives.
Officially,
yeah.
We each are married. We each have a wife.
I have a Massachusetts common law wife, and I have my normal wife, and then the Universalist Church that I got my third.
It's fine.
I've got two husbands in the South Bay, and then I've got my
whatever works for you.
Whoever will take me, I am on board. Let's go.
I don't judge. So there's reasons that her mom gives for why they got divorced, and they're wonderful. Like why she decided to leave her husband. 1, he makes pizza every Saturday. He's never asked me if that's okay. 2, asked if he could bring my hiking boots down from the cabin. He didn't do it. 3, I always believed we should have an egalitarian relationship, but he always insists on driving the car. So I thought that we could end this one with a little bit of fun. What reasons would you think? Do you think your wife would just leave you if she separated and had these 4 random reasons? What reasons would you come up with? I've got 4. I've got 5. I had 10.
Sure.
I narrowed it down very quickly.
Okay.
I'll do one and then you can do one. So I think the first one.
I would divorce you because all he talks about is WAR. I do not care.
Reason number 1, he looks at baseball in a way he'll never look at me.
Oh. That's so good. That's wonderful. That's a great line. Wow. Wow.
Yep. Number 2 that I came up with was very bad at dinner parties. Too many inappropriate jokes. Oh man. Those other ones hard to read.
My entire divorce story list could be all based off of traveling. We have like our biggest blow-ups and fights, all based around like the morning of taking an airplane. Like I pack the bag in a way that means I don't care. Like she is the most like efficient, wonderful packer, and I pack light, so I just like toss a couple things in. It's like, no, it has to be rolled and placed like in this mosaic pattern to get as much as possible into the carry-on. It's like, I don't care. I've got like 2 shirts and a pair of underwear. I'm good to go. Like I'll just plop those in. Like
bad packer.
A sandwich. I know he's a bad packer. 2, I don't assert myself in the queue line when it's time to get on the airplane. It's like, whatever, we're all gonna fly. I don't give a shit. We'll get like, no, like we're zone 2. We need to be lined up at the middle of zone 1, so we're the first ones in zone. Like that's a very high point of contention. Like I'm just like
type B personality.
I don't want to be that person. It's like sitting there with my stupid carry-on, waiting to like wheel my way onto the plane. I don't care. Like I'd rather just go like sit 2 gates down and just wait till they say last call and then like roll in. Like
yeah, exactly. That's what I do. Yeah. Wait, there's no reason to get on that plane early at all.
It would be that. 3, I like with the way she doesn't like pizza every Saturday. Like my wife does not like cooked tomatoes, and I put cooked tomatoes in things. And
that's insane.
I keep forgetting apparently, so like that would be bad.
Keep forgetting.
Yeah. Just forgetting little things.
Yeah. I put Twilight. He's in the twilight of his life. His superpower is growing lots of ear hair.
the twilight of his life. No, but there's always like those little, it's like a lot of times it's death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah. It's like didn't like get the right color paint for the bedroom.
Sure.
Like
semi-gloss, you fucking retard idiot.
Yeah.
Like,
why would you?
We're
why
throwing
is
out
this,
those
this
kind of
color?
words now?
Yeah.
Excuse me. That's not appropriate. We're talking. I made a mistake with paint. You don't have to start like using bad language like that. That's not okay. That's the thing I do too. Is I don't get emotional enough in fights.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I would say those are pretty hurtful words. I'm going to step away for a moment and I'll come back. This is my way.
You fight with your wife like you're taking care of your daughter.
Basically, yeah. That's very mean. I shouldn't do that. I should yell. I should yell a little bit.
You got it. Yeah, you have to. Yeah. Oh my God, not ramping it up. Got to ramp it up. I have these friends who are never going to get divorced, but they came up with a scheme. I may have told you about this. I don't think I've repeated it on this podcast though, but they came up with this great scheme by which they, if they're going to get divorced, they have a list of rules on how they'll divide their possessions. And so they have it set up as like a game. So they'll be outside of their apartment or their house, and you get like 2 minutes to run in and get one object. So, and if you don't get it fully out of the house by the end of the time the 2 minutes is up, you have to drop it where it is. So if you want the couch or whatever, you better get it all the way out, or else you'll put it near the door, and the next person will be able to get it a lot quicker as you go back and forth. But you're each going to mark one thing that's your personal thing. So it could be for Lucy, it could be her diary. And for Mark, it could be something else. And if you choose to take that person's one personal thing, you forfeit everything else that exists in the house. So that's your last round. So if you're like, I got my whatever, I got a bed, I got the kitchen where I wanted. Now I want her diary. And then I'm done. And she gets everything else, but I get her diary. So it'd be like this game theory of at what point do you go for the jugular and just end?
It's like supermarket sweep.
Yes.
What are you doing in the pasta aisle? Go get
meat.
the big ham.
Meat.
Go get
Always
ham.
go to
Get
meat. Supermarket sweep is such an easy game to win.
You idiot. Go to supermarket.
Pasta. Pasta's so dumb. Pasta's like the dumbest meal. Also too cheap for supermarket sweep. Takes up too much space. Anyways, okay. I've had nothing else to add to this section. So I don't know. Next, I'll figure out what we're going to read. Do you have a favorite line that you can pull up?
I do. A quick sidebar. I do have a story in the collection coming up where somebody gets divorced over the dumbest reason. So
what is the reason?
They spend time every other time they go to the video store. One spouse gets to pick the movie, and then the next time the other spouse picks the movie, and the guy just keeps picking just the worst movies. She just can't take it anymore. What's up?
I had to name the movie. So did you come up with titles?
I made up a fake movie, but it's basically just a Steven Seagal film where it's just like, are you kidding me?
What movie is it?
I think it's called Marked for Justice was the name. And she looks at it and it's a picture of a close-up of a guy's face holding a pistol right next to his face. It says marked for justice. The law has limits. He doesn't. And it's like, oh my God, we're getting divorced.
Yeah. I think that works perfectly. That would be, yeah. I could say
all right, so here's the line. Yeah.
Doesn't watch TV.
Mine is 166. And this is where is it at? All right, go find yours because again I didn't underline mine. I have to find where it is. Okay.
Oh, mine is I'm gonna go with I was torn between two. I'll go with this one, 148, because it ties into the previous conversation. It's a good idea, actually, to avoid being together with someone when you're not that self-confident, because your partner would probably be a worse person than the type of person you would choose to be together with when your self-confidence improves. I like that, and I like the one on 171 where it says, I'm always looking for ways to improve myself, and I can easily be both prettier and more alert, or whatever it is that coffee does to a person.
Yeah. All right, mine is on 166. Stig tells her that he showed her manuscript to an author. I don't dare ask Stig what she said. Instead, I show him the loaded sonnet that I've written about my big head and small boobs, a poem and a mistake. No, he just says, looks down, shakes his heavy head. No.
That is great. That is super great. Anyway, so wrap it up. Next week, we'll be going over pages 180 through 225. I believe we have a guest lined up already. I think we're going to have guests the rest of the way. August has been a month of travel for a lot of people, which is to be expected. But anyways, if you're, even if you're not reading along, it doesn't matter. You can listen to this. This book doesn't necessarily have like a strong plot that you need to follow along with. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everyone that they should be listening to our podcast. Rate and review us online. Send us some feedback, some comments. I'd love to see that. You can find me online at Chad W. Post wherever, and open_letter wherever. And you are Brian Wood _ on Twitter, where you're creeping up, getting more and more followers every week.
Yeah, I'm up to like 90 almost, so this is amazing.
Once you should give away a signed copy of Joytime Killbox to the 100th follower.
Good idea. I'll have to see where I'm at, actually. I should probably be a little more active. I'll work on that. It'll be on my list. I'll make a list.
Make a list.
1.
You have
Twitter.
115
2.
followers. You're way more than
Hey,
me.
I'm getting there. Better at Twitter.
Better at Twitter. Yeah, for sure. No, Twitter's not something you should excel at. Anyways, okay, cool. Anything you want to add?
No, thank you for the intro. That was an awesome intro.
Free.
And if you start saving 3.5 cents per day, you'll have enough money to buy my book in October. So there you go.
Hell yeah, they're in.
3 cents a day. For just 3 cents a day, you could feed this small boy.
You should just you should do the Twitter of that and just put a picture of Isaac on there. Help feed my daughter. 3.5 cents a day will buy a copy of my book. I will receive approximately like 42 cents in royalties from that sale.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, go to BOA Editions. I think it's boaeditions.org and pre-order Brian's book, Joytime Killbox, which we've talked about it several times, and we will talk about more, especially when it's officially released in October. So anyways, till next week, I've got nothing to add.
Read Monsterhuman. Read her other stuff too. She's great.
Yeah, she's
More
really great.
Lit.
Hopefully we'll be able to have her on here soon too.
That'd be great.
Yeah, well, it'd be really fun. Okay, take care, everyone.
So let's feel it. You tell me come down to my house.